Hey David, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, huge congratulations on the film, first and foremost.
Thank you.
Watched it this afternoon. It's a wonderful little film, I have to say. It was a joy to watch. So I guess when you got the script for this one, it was a very easy decision to say yes, given that it's such a kind of warm and thoughtful story.
Well, that's for sure, and it also it resonated with me because of stuff with my own father and the experience that we had a difficult relationship, and he actually when he retired spent the last of his life down in the Caribbean chartering a sailboat. He had been a light bulb salesman for all his life, and I never got to say things to him that I wish I had, but in this movie I got to say some things that we didn't.
That's a nice thing to hear, actually. That's a very nice thing to hear. I have to say, when I was watching it, and this is just a personal thing, the kind of generational language that it tells and the generational stories hit me quite hard because my grandfather, who I was very close with, died earlier this year. And on the
Hmm.
flip side, me and my wife were about to have a baby at Christmas. So it was
Yeah.
kind of it was strange to kind of watch it and see this story unfold. So obviously it was quite personal to to you as well, as you
Yeah.
said there. But is
Yeah.
this one of the most kind of personal stories that you've had in your career? Because you've made so many amazing films that this seemed to be the one that maybe struck a chord in ways that hadn't before.
Well, I would say in terms of that, that's for sure. I mean, just our job is to make things personal. N Not all the characters I play, I want to, you know, take this personally, but we got to do it to do the roles. But this one definitely, in terms of a reflection of my experience, this was the closest.
The young actors that you work with, one of which I think is Michael Douglas's real son,
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. It's strange because there's such an watching him, I was like, it's so uncanny. He looks like Michael Douglas, but then the other actor, who I think was in one of the first Cloverfield films, looks like him
yes,
as well.
yeah.
It's quite startling. And they give such amazing performances. What was it like working amongst them? Because I don't know if Michael Douglas's son has done too much yet, but it feels like a bit of a breakout role for him.
Well, he's had a very complicated life. He's very open about it. I think he started acting when he was younger, but then he really got into trouble and spent some time in prison. And he's written about it in a book. Um, and I really enjoy him a lot. Spending time with him because you would think that because of that relationship, that family that is a part of Kirk Douglas, Michael Douglas, grandfather, father, that we'd speak about them in a more complicated way. He doesn't. He's very proud of them, very proud to be in that family. And it was so refreshing to hear that. He took his problems on his own shoulders and took ownership of them. Um, so it was great with being both of them. I like because we spent a lot of time in that boat. The sun comes up, we're on the water all day long until that sun goes down at the end of the day. And it was in Belize. It was over 100 degrees. It was pretty brutal out there. It looks beautiful, but it was a little rough on that boat.
Yeah, I had a read on where he'd filmed it before, and I thought to myself, I can't imagine that's not a very cool place. It looked like it was quite
Yeah,
a sweaty, clammy kind of place to
yeah,
film.
yeah.
Did the water aspect, the same and everything else, is that something that you've done in your life before, or was this kind of a new thing? Because I know there's so many people, particularly in America. My wife's American, but obviously she didn't do this. But there's this kind of bonding thing, isn't there, of going fishing with your dad and granddad, all those kind of things. Is this something that you used to do as a kid, or is it kind of was it a new perspective for you?
Well, I was no fisherman, that's for sure. And my father was no fisherman. And I think I can remember fishing with him once in our entire lives. We were on vacation on Martha's Vineyard and we threw our lines in and I caught a squid, which squirted ink all over me. And then I caught an eel. Neither of us wanted to take that eel off the hook. And that was it. That was our fishing experience. But our family did have a boat, or we had a few boats. Ultimately, we had a sailboat, um, and I left home at 17. But before that, I love being on the water. I love sailing. I love having something to do on the water. I don't like sitting on a powerboat so much, but I love having something to do. But my father he just had a wicked temper, and being his crew was not a lot of fun. Um, so it's sort of a mixed thing, and it's kind of what this film is about. That thing of being someplace beautiful, an environment that you know you're so lucky to be in, and but the mood can change in a flash, and not always so fun.
Yeah, it's so. I have to say, it is so wonderful to see you as well. So wonderful to see Michael Douglas back on screen because obviously he's been a little bit less involved in such things because of how his health and all that kind of stuff. It was so nice to see him on screen. But you guys, did you manage to cross paths? Because it would have been a bit of a strange thing had you cross paths given the relationship you guys have.
Yeah, that's for sure. No, I didn't. He doesn't even remember. Long, long time ago, I met him. He had a movie that he was interested in doing, and there was a reading at. We had shared an agency. We did a reading in a conference room or something. He doesn't remember that at all. And I didn't actually meet him until the premiere of this last week. And finally, it was very nice to meet him. I've admired his work for a long time.
He's such an amazing presence. It's some of his films in the '80s are just extraordinary,
Yeah,
but
yeah, truly.
fantastic, fantastic as well. And then there's Walker Scobell as well. I mean, he was in a few films with Ryan Reynolds, who's just been a most incredible talent, and he has a lot of weight to carry in this, and he's fantastic as well. But again, you probably didn't meet him again until the premiere.
I didn't even see him there. I haven't met him yet.
Oh wow, it's so
Yep.
weird doing these interviews sometimes because I talk to people and I'm like, "Oh, you're so excited about the film," and the actors
Yeah.
go, "I haven't seen it yet." Never had a
Yeah.
chance to see it yet.
Yeah. I got that to look forward to.
Oh, you've not seen it yourself either, the whole
Oh,
way
no, no,
through.
no. Actually, no, no, I have seen it. No, I saw it. Yes, I did. I saw it last week. I'm going to see it again tonight. We have our premiere here in LA tonight.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic,
Yeah. Yeah.
fantastic. I was so excited to talk to you because if I may just talk about some of your other films, if I may for a minute. One of your biggest, well, two of your films that I really enjoy. One of them, obviously, next year celebrates 30 years, which as a 43-year-old man, it still shows the movies I used to watch how long ago it was, and when I was sitting in the
Yeah.
cinema watching it, which is The Rock, which is I'm sure a movie that you get asked about all the
Yeah.
time. My first question, and I don't know if you know this, is
Yeah.
that in the initial concept, apparently Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to play the Nicolas Cage character in it. I just wondered whether you were on board at that particular time, or have you never heard that story before? Because he's talked about it a few times, that it was one of the roles that he wished he never turned down.
Oh, interesting. No, I had never heard that. But I'm sure that Arnold Schwarzenegger was, they wanted him to play every role there was in every movie that was out at that time, whether it was right for it or not. It doesn't surprise me that they would have wanted him for this. I mean, he was such a big star, and so charismatic. And I understand regretting turning it down. It turned out to be one of the movies that people talk to me the most about.
Is it? I was going to say, is it the movie that people talk to you about the most? Because I presume there's that, and there's a huge fan base, kind of a cult fan base for Long Kiss Goodnight, and also then Contact, and then The Green Mile, obviously, which is
Right.
a huge thing. Is there a split between people when they come and talk to you in the street, or is it The Rock predominantly that people want to
No,
want
no.
to talk to you about?
Well, it's men, not women, who talk to me about The Rock. Um, it's the Green Mile. Everybody talks to me about that. It doesn't matter where I am in the world. It's really amazing. It seems to have just played wherever I've been in the world, the night before. To this day, that's one of the most amazing films I've been a part of in terms of that.
Yeah. I remember when it came out in was it 99, I think it was, and then into 2000. Obviously Tom Hanks was a huge it still is a huge star, but was on
Yeah,
this amazing run of performances that he'd done. And then you
yeah,
guys had this when you look back at it, you guys had this most incredible cast. There was you, Michael Clarke Duncan, Sam Rockwell. I mean, the list went on and on.
yeah.
What was it like on that set to go to work every day with all of these guys and with Frank Darabont being your director?
Well, Frank, I was actually the first one cast in it.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Yeah, Frank called me at home. We had done a little thing together. I was completely taken by surprise that he wanted me to do this. I read the script. I'd already read the Stephen King novels, which novelettes, which I loved. And then to get that script, and Frank called me and say he would like me to do it with one qualification: if I didn't improvise. If I was an actor who improvised, I said, Frank, I do not like to improvise, which wasn't completely true, but I wanted to be a part of this movie. And then I got to see um, this cast come together as we went along. Tom wasn't even a part of it at that point. And finding Michael, well, there were two Michaels, Michael Gito and Michael Clarke Duncan. I was on the sound stage, and all these basketball players, these giants were coming in and auditioning for the role. Um, and I didn't meet Michael until we had our first read through. We all sat around the table, and there were all those fantastic actors and actresses. Patricia Clarkson was in there. Uh, God, what a presence that man had. Um, and just being in the presence of all of them was so much fun to see everybody read that for the first time, uh, and how much it meant to all of them.
It's still, I think if you go on YouTube or social media, I don't know if I've ever seen sort of these lists of, the best endings or the saddest endings, all that kind of stuff. And the Green Mile isn't in the top sort of 10 at least. Because the ending and how the finale, sort of the last 10, 15 minutes is so amazing. Obviously, the film preceding it is so amazing.
Yeah.
But when you read the script for the first time, you read that ending, was it as powerful reading it as it was when you finally saw the finished product? Because every time I watch it, it's just, oh
Yeah.
man, it's such so devastating but beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, completely. Yes. Well, like I said, I read the novels first, so I knew that ending,
That is
and
sense,
and
yeah.
it got me there. And reading the script, it got me there. Watching the movie, it got me there. It really is so touching. And I think that you mentioned Contact too. Contact, I get talked to a lot, and I think one of the things that, and people don't say this, but I think it's true, is really what they're feeling in these movies is love, just
Mm.
um, and deeply. Contact, when Jodie Foster travels through the universe and finds out there this this alien who's her father, um, and that just that love. And I think that's true with in the Green Mile as well. The love that unexpected on this, death row between these men, and it's really moving.
Contact is another one that the cast on that film is incredible as well. Like there's obviously there's Jodie Foster, Matthew McConaughey, but then there's James Wood, John Hurt,
Yeah,
Rob Lowe's in it, Angela
yeah.
Bassett as well,
Matthew
William Fichtner
McConaughey.
as well. All these amazing. You've lucked out with good ensembles in your career. I mean, as an
I've
actor,
done
that's
pretty
one of
good.
the things that you want. That you get to work with so many amazing people over
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. Well, I did. Listen, the very first movie I ever did, never been one in my life, was Inside Moves, and I did the lead in that with John Savage. Dick Donner, wonderful Dick Donner directed it. And that, as much as John and I had the lead roles in it, it was that ensemble, that community, that really was the heart of the film. When I did St. Elsewhere, 6 years on St. Elsewhere, that ensemble on there, Denzel Washington was on it, Howie, Ed Begley, Ed Flanders, just everybody was fantastic on that. And I think my favorite things are things that at the heart a community, an ensemble of wonderful actors.
Did Robert Zemeckis ever tell you how he managed to pull that shot off where the of Jenna Malone? She comes out the thing and it goes through the mirror. It's just, I still people now are still like, how
Yeah,
is this possible?
yeah,
How did he do this? He's just such a visionary, that guy. As a director, Zemeckis, some of the things he's done is just extraordinary, and people are trying to unpick that now, trying to unpick
yeah.
how he did it. And you guys, as actors, don't even know how he managed to pull it off.
No, I wasn't even there that day. Those weren't my legs, that they start on. I wished I was there. That's sort of his thing. He has those signature shots in each of his movies.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes of yours is you and Ed Harris towards the end of The Rock, and then probably you're probably when things turn and
Yeah.
secrets are unveiled. What was that day? Could you remember what that day on set was like? Because I remember always watching it and always being like, wow, this, because obviously you had the other guys there as well, and things were kind of, snowballing into this, towards the end and
Yeah.
everything else. But again, you talk about ensemble, you had all those great guys there playing, the army sergeants and everything. But then
Mhm.
there's you two sparring at each other, and it's Ed Harris who's just a titan as well. Do you remember what that day was like? Because watching the film, it's still like such a heart pounding kind of moment because you just don't know which way it's going to go.
Well, just to a little background on that, when I read for the role and was hired for the role, my character, that same character, turned out to be the bad guy, and went all the way to the end with that battle with the stuff, on the end. That was originally my character. And when I went for the first read through, and Sean Connery's there, and Nicolas Cage, and Ed's there, I saw that I was no longer that character. And I was going to get killed in that scene that you're talking about. I was not happy about it. And I was not, I wasn't even, I was not so hopeful about that script. Um, I didn't imagine it was going to be as good or successful as it was. There were things about it, I, maybe because I was just a little bitter at the moment because I didn't like it. I didn't have that role anymore. Uh, uh, but then I grew to embrace it. And Michael Bay told me, and Jerry Bruckheimer, is when they were going through the script, they realized that they couldn't have this guy be the bad guy. The relationship between Ed's character, my character, was too important. It was too emotional, and there was a better way to handle it. And it turned out they're absolutely right. You get in that scene, you don't know what's going to happen. Um, so I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Did you ever hear the fan theory that The Rock is a long in the future sequel and that Sean Connery's Mason is actually his version of James Bond, just like 30 years later?
I just heard
There's a
that. Yeah,
there is a fan theory that
yeah,
it's a secret James Bond film. Sean
yeah,
Connery is playing James Bond undercover.
yeah. Well, I like that.
Yeah, that was the because he's Secret Service and he makes a point. He's obviously doing his voice. He very rarely did accents. Did Sean Connery? Did he? But there
Yeah,
was a big thing, and then there's a. I think people have done like video essays on the fact that if you watch it everywhere, you take it as a many years down the line from Diamonds Are Forever and whatever else that he was in. That Mason is actually James Bond, and I
yeah.
always
Well,
thought actually it kind of fits. It kind of
it does.
fits.
It
It
does.
kind of
And
fits.
I have to say that Sean Connery was a real gentleman. I was really impressed with him just from that first reading. He came up to me and introduced himself. He came up to everybody, introduced himself. I'm Sean Connery. I'm not going to do an imitation of him. But on the set, the same thing. Not that he was social, we didn't talk much, but he was a real gentleman with the crew, with everybody, and I really admired that.
Yeah. It's also the start of like this Nicolas Cage action hero because he did The Rock, Con Air, and Face Off like one after another. And I think he
Yeah,
just completely, it's after he won an Academy Award for one of the most amazing performances, he becomes an action hero. It's such a
yeah,
staple of so like my generation's sort of teenage years, seeing Speed and then seeing The Rock and then
yeah,
Con Air and all these amazing
yeah.
action movies. One movie I did want to quickly ask you about is one of my favorites, which is Long Kiss Goodnight, which is still so underrated as a movie, and it's Shane Black doing so many Shane Black things, and
Yeah,
Rennie Harlin after he did Die Hard 2, and Sam
yeah.
Jackson, Gina Davis. This is again an incredible ensemble, but that movie has over the years grown and grown and grown, and now it's getting all these amazing sort of new releases and Blu-rays and
Hmm.
4Ks, and everyone's embracing it again. Were you surprised that it wasn't as big a success back then as it has become over the years, given just how good I can imagine the script was, considering it was Shane Black, and how good the movie is? It just seemed to, I don't know, it's one of those strange things in Hollywood history that, like with Blade Runner, I guess it doesn't hit big, but then becomes something bigger than you could have imagined.
Yeah. By the way, Brian Cox was in there too. Um,
Brian Cox, yeah.
I actually, this is news to me that it wasn't a bigger hit. Because at the time, lots of people talked to me about it.
Mm,
Uh, yeah, and that's news. And Rennie Harlan, that was like over the top filmmaking, Hollywood filmmaking. 17 cameras on a scene when she's on that wheel going underwater.
Yeah.
When they're drowning her, I'm torturing her, whatever I'm doing to her. They got cameras everywhere on that thing, underwater. Uh, just in terms of that scene, we shot that all day long with her. There's scuba divers under there with their water tanks, and I'm off camera the entire day while I'm doing this, and she's in the water. And then at midnight, they send her home, and then I have to do all my stuff with a script supervisor. She's gone, and I have to do my whole part of the scene. Talking to somebody off camera, nothing in front of me, just imagining the whole thing, which was not my favorite way to do a scene. But that's just a little detail on that.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah,
To be fair, I'm still flabbergasted at you telling me the story about the Rock and how you were going to, because I'm just,
yeah,
I've been listening to you, but also being like, what would that
yeah,
have been like if he'd have been the villain? That would have been a
yeah,
quite a twist. Quite a twist.
yeah.
And just finally, you're just on We Are Liars now as well, which has gone down a storm,
Right.
which is
Yes. Yeah.
getting some great reviews and everything else. How's that been in terms of an experience for you? There's so many actors now. Television seems to be such a rich place for stories and characters, and so many actors are going there. And I always say this to people I've interviewed, 20, 30 years ago, TV was like the suicide. It was like the end of the career.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's where everybody seems to want to go.
Well, it's true. When I did St. Elsewhere, and this make this a bigger answer than you're looking for, but it was almost impossible to transition from television to movies, and it was very hard for me. But I did it. Sean Penn, thankfully, put some faith in me for a couple of movies, Indian Runner and The Crossing Guard, and that really helped me to transition into movies out of television. And right now, in 22 episodes, 26 episodes, that's brutal. It's brutal on creativity. That's just, old television. It still happens now, some shows. It's brutal on the creators, on everybody, on the crew. You're lucky if you're on it, but I think it's the hardest job, an hour drama, doing 22 episodes. And now, even though people aren't making, writers particularly, aren't making the money they used to. There's something about that 8 episode to 10 episode arc that I like a lot. You're talking about We Were Liars, with our 8 episodes on that, because you get to really expand the story character-wise. You get to live through the character. In a 2-hour movie, you're kind of limited in the experience that you have there. I really like living with these characters. And We Were Liars. There were things in the first couple episodes, if that's all you saw of just my character in particular, you get a very limited picture of the man. By the end of it, it's a much more complicated, richer portrait of this guy and the world. And those, the young people are fantastic in this, and We Were Liars. So I actually, as an actor, enjoy that if you've got a good role.
Fantastic. I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my. This is the problem with TV. You get 8 episodes. There's more content, so you have to try
Yeah,
and pick
yeah,
your battles. And I like some stuff. My wife likes other stuff. So it's
yeah,
trying to find a nice middle
yeah,
ground.
yeah.
It's been so lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope if the day comes that you guys get together somewhere for a 30th anniversary of The Rock, because I feel like you'd have sold out theaters everywhere. Coming to see you and
Uh,
Ed and Nick and Michael Bay with all his madness.
in
That would
another
be
in another movie,
amazing.
or just get together. You want to see a sequel to it with all of us.
No sequel. Just play the original. Just put
Oh,
it on a big
oh,
screen, and you guys get
oh.
together for a nice big nice big Q&A. That would be you'd sell out tickets quite easily, I think.
Oh, that'd
It's
be
been an
fun.
absolute
Yeah,
pleasure. Yeah, it's been a pleasure
thanks.
talking to you. So thank you so much for your time.
Happy to be with you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey you guys!
Hey, you guys!